She was friends with Bill Clinton and George Bush, two close alleged associates of Jeffrey Epstein.
That one sentence, that's where this story starts.
It was given to her in Langley. The only reason why you have that many wrist buttons is if you're looking at clothes on somebody.
A joke? Maybe. Or maybe the most honest thing said about Ellen DeGeneres in years.
Her stories have changed so many times about what happens, when it happens, how it happens, with different versions. And each time she speaks, there's a different version.
3 voices, 3 different angles, all pointing at the same name. Ellen DeGeneres built a television empire on the phrase, "be kind." But right now, with the Epstein files dropping, Ghislaine Maxwell sitting in a Texas prison with meals delivered to her cell, and Joe Rogan saying what the mainstream press won't, people are asking a question that refuses to go away. What exactly the court documents actually show? Maxwell was convicted and sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. But what came out during the legal process was arguably more disturbing than the conviction itself. According to newly filed court documents, Maxwell claimed that 25 individuals described as friends and associates of Epstein had been protected under secret settlements, deals that were never disclosed to her during her own trial.
Ghislaine Maxwell, the former associate of Jeffrey Epstein, she was convicted of trafficking minors, sentenced to 20 years in prison. She claims that 25 men, maybe friends, associates of the deceased financier, have been protected under secret settlements, secret deals, and that this information was not revealed to her during her trial. This is on top of what she claims are 4 other individuals, alleged co-conspirators, who were never charged.
25 names, protected by deals nobody's seen. 4 co-conspirators who walked free. Critics of Ellen have pointed to this as the key context for everything that follows, because shortly after Maxwell's legal proceedings began gathering momentum, Ellen shut down her show, quietly, suddenly, and eventually, permanently. Now, is that a coincidence? Her team said it was time. She said she'd been feeling constrained by the format for years, but the timing is what people cannot let go of. And then there's what Maxwell allegedly said when her deposition touched on Ellen directly.
Her stories have changed so many times about what happens, when it happens, how it happens, with different versions. And each time she speaks, there's a different version.
That clip has been interpreted in wildly different ways. Some say it's Maxwell deflecting. Others say it's Maxwell doing exactly what she's done throughout protecting someone. Because one thing Ghislaine Maxwell has never done, even with 20 years hanging over her head, is name names.
I do not believe he died by suicide, no.
And do you believe that, do you have any speculation or view of who killed him?
No, I don't.
She knows, and she's not talking. The question is, why? And who benefits from her silence? To understand the scale of Epstein's network, you have to understand what the
President Trump, he wasn't president at the time, but Donald Trump was in there, and just so many famous people were in there.
Now, important caveat, and the documentary footage itself makes this clear inclusion in that book is not evidence of wrongdoing. These were contact lists. People show up in powerful people's phones for 1,000 reasons. But here's what Rogan and others have zeroed in on. It's not just who was in the book, it's who was circled. Someone went through those pages and marked specific names as more deeply involved. And the person who did that, marking the one who could explain what it meant, is no longer alive. This is where Joe Rogan enters the conversation, and where the internet went into overdrive. Rogan has never been subtle about his skepticism of Hollywood's elite circles, but his commentary on Ellen specifically hit differently, because he wasn't just making jokes. He was connecting dots in his own chaotic stream of consciousness way that a lot of people had already been quietly connecting on their own.
The only guy that saw Stephen Paddock alive, his name is Jesus Campos. He was a guard at Mandalay Bay. He got interviewed nowhere else. You know where he got interviewed in the beginning? Ellen.
Really?
Weird.
Now Rogan and his guest frame this as strange, as worth questioning. They're not stating it as fact, and neither are we. But the observation itself has fueled significant online debate. Why would the Mariah revealed she had suffered a miscarriage not long after that appearance. What was played as a light moment, forcing a woman to either lie or confirm a pregnancy on live television, was, in hindsight, one of the most invasive things ever broadcast on daytime TV. Martha Stewart, Katy Perry, guest after guest pushed past their comfort zones. Information extracted, vulnerabilities exposed. Online communities that have spent years analyzing Epstein's operation call this social mapping, identifying pressure points. And they've pointed to Ellen's interview style as a potential example of this in plain sight. Is that a reach? Maybe. Rogan thinks it's worth asking. A lot of people think it's worth asking. While the theories swirl online, there is a documented, verified, heartbreaking story underneath all of it. Virginia Giuffre was just 16 years old when she was recruited by Ghislaine Maxwell. She'd been working as a locker room attendant at Mar-a-Lago.
She approached you to
yeah, she's like, oh, do you need to make any extra money? I'm like, yeah. She's like, okay, $200 with this older guy in Palm Beach. He gets a lot of massages from girls. That was really, that's all she.
Virginia would go on to become the most prominent public face of Epstein's survivors. She testified. She wrote a memoir. She named names including Prince Andrew, who settled her civil lawsuit in 2022 for an undisclosed amount. And then, in April of 2025, just weeks before the first major release of vocal Trump critic for years. That's documented. A political exit is a reasonable explanation, but critics are pointing out the specific timing. Not after the election was called, not after the inauguration, right as the machinery around the files started moving, right as Maxwell's legal team started making noise about those 25 protected names.
About that cow. But anyway, good riddance to her, but she was quite friendly with that P. Diddy bloke, wasn't she?
Well, this is why I say release the Diddy files.
Yeah,
release the Diddy files. Come on, Donald Trump, we want to know whose name.
And that's the thing about the Diddy parallel that Rogan's audience keeps raising. Diddy's case, for all the noise it generated, ended up being prosecuted on a remarkably narrow set of charges given what was publicly alleged. The pattern people keep identifying is this: when the net gets close, it seems to close on the most visible, most expendable figure and stop. The people behind the people stay behind the curtain. Ghislaine Maxwell is currently serving 20 years in a federal prison camp in Bryan, Texas. Except serving time might be generous language. Fellow inmates have allegedly been warned directly. This is the architecture of the silence. Maxwell sitting comfortably, the files releasing slowly, the names still protected, and the people with the most to lose putting oceans between themselves and the country where the reckoning is supposed to happen. Joe Rogan didn't produce a subscribe, turn on notifications, because the moment something breaks, we'll be here.